can introduce herself, and you have 5 minutes, and go for it.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. I see some familiar faces. Hi, Mr. Orr. Yay. So his son Eddie was in my grade at Fairview, and his younger son Jimmy was in my sister's grade at Fairview. And so I'm very excited to see some familiar faces. I know Scott Crystal too. I was born and raised in Columbia, Missouri. My name is Tanya Heath, Heath like the candy bar. And my husband and I were doing our third garage sale this summer. And a garbage collector came and explained how that he said that they were at half staff, 50%. They only had 12 out of 28. And I thought, we're already doing our recycling. What is going on? We're going to end up having to take our trash to the landfill. And then he said that, Columbia people were yelling at the garbage collectors when they were picking up the garbage. A couple weeks later, I ran into another garbage collector because he was a bartender. And I said, I was so shocked about that. And he said, yeah, that one person got in a truck and followed them to a gas station and yelled at them further. And I thought, this is not Columbia, not the Columbia that I grew up in. And that appreciation that we all have for one another's hard work definitely needs to be expressed. And so instead of talking the talk, I wanted to walk the walk. And so that's why I decided to run for mayor. I believe after the pandemic that 4 things have kind of come forward. I believe that people are more interested in their purpose in life because the pandemic definitely brought everyone an awareness of mortality. And so having a strong purpose in life is so important. Having a say in what happens has really become important instead of just being a passive democracy. I think people want to really get engaged. I think the other thing is people are very aware of security and what we can all do to be secure, whether that is health security or living security or business security. And then the 4th thing is joy, because I believe that we all want to have joy and we all want to have meaningful relationships and a positive community where we live. So that's kind of the philosophical reasons why I have decided to run for mayor. Professionally, I went Fairview West, Hickman, and then I graduated from the journalism school at the University of Missouri with an emphasis in advertising. And I've spent 30 years of my professional career either working in sales or the last 10 years, this is my 11th year, as an adjunct instructor in the journalism school with strategic communication classes. And so with that, I just think, it's one thing to go and talk to your friends and find out what they think and that type of thing. It has been very interesting to go and talk to all types of people and all types of different ways of thinking about the problem. And so I believe that what I can bring to the table is that as a strategic thinker, the whole goal is not the prison of 2 ideas. The whole goal is to come up with the best idea. And I like to research, get people's opinion, listen to people, listen to all kinds of people, get their full input so that way we can come up with the best ideas. And then after we come up with the best ideas, then I believe it's important to test them out, make adjustments, be nimble, roll them out, evaluate it further, and go forward. And so that's what I would do as mayor, is I would listen and I would make sure that all perspectives are taken into account and that we are making decisions that are not only good for 10 minutes, but they're good for 10 months and they're good for 10 years. And so my website is muleskinners.com, and I look forward to answering your questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Seamon, I'm trying to locate you on my screen somewhere. Oh, there you are. All right.
I'm up here.
It's your
Yeah.
turn now. Right. You can go.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for having me. I think the last time I was with Muleskinners was about 2018 when you all were still at the country club. So I appreciate you still being active and thanks for having me this morning. My name is David Seamon. I am a candidate for mayor, and I am currently a member of the Columbia Public Schools Board of Education. I've been serving on the Board of Education since June of 2020. If you notice, I said June and not April 2020. That's because as the election was taking place, the pandemic was occurring, and they pushed our election back a few months. That has been the bulk of my governing experience on the school board, making decisions based off COVID in a rapidly changing environment with data points that would change on a regular basis. And one day they were valid, the next day the CDC was telling us not to follow those anymore. On the board, I also am the chair of our policy committee, which means that I am chairing the committee that sets the direction for the district, sets the policy direction for Dr. Yearwood and his cabinet. Oh, a little bit about myself. I'm originally from Columbia, South Carolina, but my family moved around a lot as my dad continued to progress in his own career in municipal and state government. So I went from Columbia, South Carolina to Atlanta, Georgia, to Colorado Springs, and then to Columbia, Missouri. If you know anything about those four cities, they're all pretty different from each other. When I got to Columbia in 2003, I was a sophomore at Rockbridge. And in 2006, actually on Father's Day, 2006, as a rising senior, I lost my father to cancer. 2 months later, my girlfriend at the time and now wife told me she was pregnant. And the next day I started my senior year of high school at Rockbridge. That was one of the most challenging points in my life. And the only reason I am able to sit here before all of you in the position that I am today is because of people like you. This city wrapped its arms around me and carried me forward, did not allow me to stumble and fall. And with that, I was able to graduate from Rockbridge. I went on to Columbia College, finished my bachelor's degree, and I joined the Marine Corps as a logistics officer, served for 5 years in North Carolina. And it was time for that service to end. My wife and I decided we wanted to bring our family back to Columbia because this is our hometown now. This is the town that gave us our start, that gave us the opportunity. So we moved back in 2017, and I've been here ever since. I actually served as the committeeman for Senate District 19 for the Democratic Party for 2 years, from 2018 to 2020. Gave me a good insight into how the state party operates. So here we are now in, what is this? Late March of 2022, and I'm running for mayor now. And I'm running for mayor for the same reason that I ran for school board. It's because of that opportunity that I was given. Like I said, I wouldn't be here without the opportunity that you all gave me. And I want to ensure that each of our children and each of us has that same opportunity. And for me, that means solving our violent crime problem, not just the one downtown, but the one that's existed on the outskirts of town for decades. That involves solving our affordable housing issue. We can't ask people to move here. We can't ask people to stay here if they can't afford to live here. And that ensures that making sure we have a transit system that works for all of us. You can't, like I said, you can't ask folks to move here if they can't get around the city. They can't get from that affordable housing unit to their employer. And that's what a public transit system is designed to do. So, like I said, I want to thank you for inviting us here this morning, or I guess it's this afternoon now, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. Now we're ready for questions. Are there any people who have questions? And like Pam had said earlier to the people who are with the press, you can ask questions as well, but you need to be recognized. Anybody have a question? We've got to have some. Oh, I see Pam does. Thank you, Pam.
Okay. I have a question for each person because the questions that I have don't apply to both of you. Tanya, my question to you is, what were the people yelling at the trash collectors about? When I see them, I wave and say thank you. And I know that if there's something that I know people are unhappy about the trash collection, but it's not their fault. So I don't understand what people would be yelling about.
Yes, that is what the garbage collector that came to our garage sale said, that people were yelling at the garbage collectors about the 2-bag policy and how that they didn't like it. And that's what was so weird, because then I sent because remember how hot it was? I was like, oh my gosh. And so I sent an email to our 160 houses in our neighborhood saying, please thank a garbage collector, because if we only have 12 out of 28, we need them to stay. And so then KOMU came and interviewed me, and they were like, you know, what do you think about this? And I was like, we need to talk to city council. We need to, you know, brainstorm and come up with a new idea, and we need to support our garbage collectors. And the one that said that the guy followed him in a truck to the gas station to yell at them more, I was like, that's bordering on harassment. So I mean, it's unfortunately people, I think, coming out of the pandemic, it's like they've got so much pent up emotion, they're not always thinking logically. So I want to support the garbage collectors and all city workers.
Yeah, they get injured very frequently as well. So that is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, Pam, I should have said all of the questions should be directed to both people, but since Pam said she has one that's directed just to David Seamon, then we'll give him a chance to answer a question. In the future, all questions should be answered by both candidates. Miss, what's your question?
David, what I'm wondering is, did you have a bad experience on the school board? Is that why you want to do something different?
No, so I mean, the experience has been eye-opening. And we've gone through a lot in the last 2 years, but I would not classify it as a bad experience. What I have seen, well, what I saw when Mayor Therese decided that he was not going to run again, after some deliberation with friends, with my wife, with other school board members, actually, was an opportunity to provide that. There's an opportunity, I guess, to provide that opportunity for more people. CPS is very near and dear to my heart, and I can tell you that one of the decision-making factors for running for mayor was whether or not my leaving the school board would cause some type of lasting damage. I know we are concerned about the upcoming election and potentially who is elected to that board. And it is still very important to me. So if I thought that my leaving would leave CPS in a bad way, I would not be running for mayor. I do feel confident in our new superintendent, his cabinet, and my current colleagues on the board that they will continue the work that we're doing. But no, I'm not leaving because of a bad experience. That's not who I am. I'm running for mayor for the same reason I ran for school board, and there's an opportunity there to provide the same things that I had for more people in this city, not just the 19,000 students and 3,000 staff members at CPS.
Okay. Thank you. And Scott Crystal has his hand up. Scott?
All righty, and this question is basically for both of you, so I'll start that trend. What direction would you like to try and direct Columbia to go into? Not just the next year, but the next few years and into the future.
Okay, let's see here. Tanya answered first last time, so Mr. Seamon can answer first this time.
So the direction we should be moving it is always forward, Scott. I think you and I have talked about that a couple of different times. So I mean, my priorities, like I said, are ensuring that we are solving violent crime, affordable housing, and transit. So I'll kind of touch on those as in the direction that we should be headed in. And when it comes to violent crime, we tend to only focus on what's taking place downtown. But in reality, these are issues that are melted into downtown from our communities on the outskirts. And that's been taking place for a while, and we are not paying attention to it. So we know that solving crime means eliminating poverty. So ensuring that those folks have the opportunity to pursue well-paying jobs with benefits. We have programs like CARE that target at-risk youth. Because if you read the paper, as a CPS board member, it crushes me to see that a 15, 16, and 17-year-old is shooting at a 15, 16, and 17-year-old. So ensuring that those kids have the opportunity to pursue an economic benefit is going to be important to ensuring that they stay off the streets, so they're not engaging in at-risk behavior. And that means just funding the programs that we have, funding them in a better light. Our transit system is the lifeblood of the city. And folks always say, well, nobody rides the bus. Well, it's difficult to ride the bus when we have stops that are not on sidewalks. It's difficult to ride the bus when on Saturday on the north side of town, you may be standing at a stop for an hour and a half before the next bus shows up. I can't ask you to go utilize all of the resources, the wonderful resources that the city provides for people, if I can't get you there on time to utilize them. So, Scott, that is a direction I would have this going in the city, moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Heath?
Yes, so I would say that, we've grown 37,000 since 2000, which took our, town where we kind of knew how to do everything and knew each other easily, to a town where we've had so much growth so quickly that it's hard to manage. It's hard to manage in the sense that the housing is clearly an issue. The security is clearly an issue, and also employment is an issue. And so when you look at Columbia and you look at how we have a very high end, income, but then we also have 22% poverty, that is so weird. That was not Columbia in the 70s and the 80s when I was growing up here. And so I think we really need to look at how can we come together as a community and help those that are in that poverty become secure, have opportunities to move up. And through those opportunities, I believe in mentoring programs. I believe in faith and nonprofit organizations working together to support the community and just help with education and help with the gaps. So for instance, if someone is in poverty and they have their car break down and they have their air conditioning unit, break at the same time, they don't have that backup savings like someone else does. So we could have faith communities come and have microloans. I mean, we could be so creative with how we solve things going forward. The other thing is on the job quality, we could look at having a physical therapist for the fire and the police and the garbage collectors, and just all kinds of things to decrease crime through no drugs, in a new way, new solutions. Don't use drugs because that's not the answer.
Okay, thank you. Is there another question out there? Oh, well, I see Alice has a question. Alice, what is your question?
Okay, so David Weber wrote an article on February 25th about ranked choice voting and the mayor's race, an accident waiting to happen. I would term 3 of the 4 candidates, which includes the 2 of you, as progressive leaning. It said that 60% of Columbia votes progressive or Democratic and 40% conservative. How do you balance the fact that several of you running for this office could elect the most conservative candidate and take us backward, in my opinion? How do you balance that with running for this office? Because it's really important to all of us. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Heath, you're the first. You start now.
So I don't know if you all know the background that has been going on is that we received an anonymous sort of letter by somebody basically telling 3 of us to get out. And the weird thing about that is that it was based on campaign donations. That's the sole reason that the person put in the letter as to why we should get out. And I just was struck at how limited that thinking was, because they didn't say, hey, David might have had the most events and Tanya might have talked to the most people door to door. They might be the 2 leaders and the other 2 might not really be the 2, forefront leaders, but they decided who the leaders were based on donations. And David and I have really kind of gone in a different direction as how we reach out to the people. So I just say Columbia is not for sale. Our vote is not for sale. And I trust the people will look at our ideas, because that's what we want to be judged on, is we want to be judged on ideas, and we want people to vote for the best candidate based on ideas.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Seamon.
Yeah, so I am running because 40% of Black students are going to show up to school on Monday in poverty. And that's right now, not under a Mayor Minshew. 50+% of all renters in this city are cost burden, which means they are straddling the line between being able to pay the rent and being evicted. That exists right now, not under a Mayor Minshew. So we have a large number of issues, and we always do. There will always be some issue. I think the question we have to ask ourselves, and I think the vast majority of us here, as this is Muleskinners or Democrats, is, are we going to stand on our principles, the principles that we espouse consistently, or are we going to allow the fear of a Mayor Minshew dictate how we respond to things? Are we going to allow that to force us to abandon that 40% of children until potentially the next election cycle? Are we going to allow us to abandon those majority of renters who are on the edge of eviction? That is not something that I am willing to do. I'm not willing to go look them in the eye and say, I'm sorry, we're going to, hey, we might get you on the next election cycle, when we're not worried about a Mayor Minshew. So I can't speak for everybody, but that's my point of view.
Okay, thank you. And I think I saw Herb had a question. Do you still have a question, Herb? And you're muted. So you unmute yourself, please. There, do you have a question?
Let me thank you both for offering yourself in public service and also in being here for the benefit of the connection with this group. We appreciate it very much. One of the crucial things for any mayor, one of the things they bring in this system that we have, where we have a city manager, is they are in effect ambassador of the city of Columbia before the state, nation, world, intergalactic, whatever it may be. And therefore, and I don't know you very well, I apologize for that. Please tell me about the state wide and nationwide institutions and organizations with which you are connected, so that you can build on what present council members do, such as Carl, in this regard. It's just so helpful from mayors.
Oh, well, Mr. Seamon, you would start.
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier, I was a logistics officer in the United States Marine Corps, and I still have friends who are active duty, who are stationed around the globe. We talk on a regular basis about the issues that are impacting the world today. I am also currently in a master's in public administration program at the University of Pennsylvania. So once a month over a weekend, I fly to Philadelphia, and I'm interacting with students from across the globe who also fly in for that program. These are the future movers and shakers within nonprofits, government centers, and entities across the globe. As an ambassador, I think you have to be able to walk into a room with anyone and be comfortable. And that is something that my upbringing has afforded me. Moving from Atlanta, Georgia, a particular part of Atlanta, Georgia, where the school I was in, 98% of the students are Black, to the north side of Colorado Springs, where I was one of only 4 Black children in the entire high school. I am comfortable being able to move in different rooms. It doesn't matter who's there. Doesn't matter who's speaking. I have the opportunity and the capability to push our ideals forward and represent this city in a positive light.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Heath, okay, your turn.
Thank you for the question. I am a 20-year member of the Daughters of the American Revolution. I have been a 17-year member of the American Advertising Federation of Men, Missouri for 17 years when it was in existence. I am a 28-year member of Community United Methodist Church. I was a 4-H'er and then as an adult was a 4-H leader of Woodlandville 4-H Club. And I was on the board of West Broadway Swim Club. Professionally, I was the director of advertising for the Mizzou Alumni Magazine. And so I met all kinds of very, very well-respected people who would come in and, talk to our magazine writers, and I would be in the office and meet them. And I would go to a lot of the alumni events that we had. And then I've also, as an instructor, I have met so many students from all over the world and have gotten to know about their culture. And in fact, have made great efforts to make sure that a student from Australia or a student from China has the same level playing field as far as how to go about writing advertising that works as someone who grew up in Boone County. So I am very comfortable with people as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have a question? Let's see, the only hand I see up right now is Alice's. Okay, Alice?
I just thought maybe the candidates could give us, tell us about their experience directly working with the city. I know a lot of former mayors have been on commissions. I was on a commission for 14 years. Do you regularly listen? Now we can listen to city council meetings. If you don't have direct experience with commissions, just give us an idea of that. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Heath, you start out.
Yeah, so I would say throughout the years that I have attended city council meetings throughout the years, and I have actually spoken when we had the whole I'm thinking of the brand name Juuling, but when that type of thing became very popular among high school kids, I went and spoke at a city council meeting against that, because unfortunately it was sort of like the Joe Camel of earlier, where the young ones are like, oh, that sounds great. And then they're doing it without realizing the long-term effects of that choice. So I have spoken on that, as well as certainly have done the deep dive, listening and learning as much as I can since I decided to run for mayor. And I think, honestly, it actually kind of helps, because when you find out how, I don't want to say exactly cliquish, there's all these little cliques all over, which is very, of course, that makes sense, because everybody likes to be around people that think like themselves. But when you look around as an objective person, you can see how that it's not really helping come up with a solution. So I think that's part of what I bring, is that as a strategic communication instructor, I'm very much about brainstorming a lot of ideas and coming up with the best idea and listening to everybody. And I think that way, people don't have a preconceived notion about me, and I don't have sides. And so I think that's actually going to work in my favor as mayor. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Mr. Seaman?
Yes. So I was appointed to the TIF commission, the city's TIF commission by Mayor Therese, I believe it was back in 2018, and I served a term there. As a school board member, I was also our representative to the TIF commission in my first year. As a member of the school board, I've had substantive conversations and interactions with city staff, the city council members, the mayor, our local representatives, both Republican and Democrat. I do watch the city council meetings afterwards. There are times when we have our own meetings on the school board at the same time. So I'll go back and watch those online, because what happens at city council does impact what happens on the school board, what happens within the district. Those relationships with state reps, like I said, both Republican and Democrat, interactions with the Missouri State Board of Education, Missouri School Board Association. We had substantive conversations with Stephanie Browning throughout COVID. And maybe fortunately or unfortunately, some recent interactions with our state attorney general. Although that is the extent of my interaction with local and state officials.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Oh, David Luthold has his hand up.
My question is on refuse collection, which has been an issue for years here in Columbia. And so we've had lots of discussion, and we obviously have lots of division. What do you think? What do you prefer with regard to the present policy, and particularly what do you think with regard to privatizing and the use of roll carts, which are now prohibited, but the city council can change that?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Seaman.
Sorry, I just muted myself. So I'm going to get straight to your question. I would be in support of roll carts. I think Tanya touched on it earlier, where the reason that we are in a part of the reason we have the current bag system is because our sanitation workers were suffering injuries. I think it's about $300,000 in workers' compensation claims. So we switched to the current bag system. I would be in favor of roll carts. We don't have to reinvent the wheel as we sometimes like to do. We can go find someone else's wheel and put a couple of different spokes into it. And that wheel could come from places like Lawrence, Kansas, where they have implemented this system for about the last decade. They have different size roll carts for different size homes, for different different compositions of neighborhoods. And places like Athens, Georgia, where they have roll carts, but they also have exceptions built in for our seniors and our neighbors with disabilities, so that if it is easier for them to continue to use bags and not roll cart, they are able to. Sanitation workers will come to their door or their porch, wherever that bag is, and pick it up without having to get a roll cart. So yes, I would be in favor of changing our current system.
Okay, thank you. All right, Ms. Heath.
So I've talked to neighbors that are completely against roll carts, and they have legitimate reasons. And they also have, I believe it's been 2 votes where the voters have said that they want trash bags and not roll carts. And I know that obviously in August, the voters are going to get the vote again. So to me, with the way that the streets are and things like that, I just think that we can look towards the future where we're going to have 200,000 people here, pretty soon. And we need to do a hybrid approach. So I believe that the inside of the city that we currently have trash bags, we talk to the garbage collectors, we find out what they would want. And I believe that we've heard when we talk to their union that, they might be open to 3 or 4 under 50 bag pound, trash bags. And then as new developments start on the outside of the donut, those could be roll carts only, because then the driveways could be flat. There's all kinds of things they could put in place, and people would know that when they move there. The other thing is other cities have an automatic leaf truck that comes along. You put your leaves out on the street, it sucks it up, it crunches it up, it composts it. It's good for the environment. It's a lot better than having 10 bags of leaves, on the side of the street. And I think if we hired that physical therapist, we could help them with sort of like a pre-workout stretch and then a post-workout recovery. And I think we could just go about it smarter. I mean, we do that for the high school athletes. Why not do it for the garbage collectors? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I see it's either Carl or Maury has a hand up, so.
We each have a question, but I'll go first. My question has to do with this, with the city's climate action and adaptation plan, and where you stand on the implementation of that plan, and specifically on moving up the goal for 100% renewable energy to a sooner date than.
Okay, Ms. Heath.
So I'm probably going to say something that's unpopular, but I'd rather be truthful than not. And that's because I would base all my decisions based on having opposite views in the room, so that I could make sure that we are asking the tough questions and both sides are having to give the information. And so I have had relatives that reported how awful it was in Austin, Texas last winter when their grid system was not working because they, the wind and the solar, it just didn't work with that huge snowstorm that they had. So I would not want to become like Austin, Texas. So I would want to make sure that what we do is we start with the highest emissions and we come up with solutions that would address those. And if we have to spend a lot of money to address those rather than address everything, I would want to make sure that we do the highest priority well, rather than 100% crappy. So that might not be the popular answer, but it's an honest answer. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Seamon.
Yeah, so this is going to be a pretty quick answer. I support the implementation of the climate action plan, and I also support moving our goals up to 2030. Climate change is the only real issue on the table at this point. And I think, as Carl can probably tell you, the Department of Defense doesn't change its policies a lot, but a couple of years ago, they began implementing large contingency plans focused on what we know is going to happen around the world. So once DOD starts making policy changes, this is a very real issue, and we do need to begin pushing forward with more aggressive goals.
Okay, thank you. Let's see here. I saw.
Could I
Nicole,
Carl had a
ask a
question
question?
also. That's
well,
okay.
all right, a quick one.
They're all quick. We're forum. We are
Okay.
forum veterans, but I'm more interested in the group dynamics of the city council. And obviously, although the mayor has the bully pulpit and the agenda setting and all of the rest of it, it does take 4 votes for any action to succeed on the city council. I'm interested in consensus building and how we heal and I've been asked this at forums, how we heal some of the divides about the exchange between the public and the city council and the city council and the city manager, as to how that group dynamics are managed. How do you feel about that?
Okay, we start with, let's see here, is it Ms. Heath this time? I think.
Yes. So as a complete outsider, here's a weird experience. Okay, so I went to a city council meeting and I accidentally sat in this one person's seat. And when I realized that I sat in the audience in this one person's seat, I immediately got up and I said, I'm so sorry I sat in your seat. And that person said, I wish you were mayor. And like, you know how you are for a second, your ego is like, good, my message is getting out. And then I was like, no, there's no way. Why did that person say that? And that person said that because I believe that they feel that tension, and that the city workers feel that tension. And so it's like they want someone that, and whether it's David or me or, you know, whoever, they want somebody that is not going to come in and cause problems by not being willing to listen to people. And I think that as a strategic communicator, the whole purpose is to work with people to bring them to their best levels. And the best way to do that is by listening and by respecting. And that's what I would bring if I were mayor, is that I like thorough discussion of the pros and cons, because I think it saves us from failure later. And that person that is the one that's always the naysayer, that's actually going to kind of be your best friend, because that person is really going to make you rethink something that you might have an implicit bias on that you need to do better as far as the solution. So that's what I would bring, is I would bring a lot of respect and listening and solutions. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Seaman?
So Carl, we're right there in the same boat with you on the school board. If you've watched the school board meeting lately, you will see a large number of very angry people who come up and spend their 3 minutes, you know, putting their, I won't go that route, but they're there. There's not a lot that we can really do to help those folks. I think the way that we heal our community is within the Board of Education. We have found that we also have very significant disagreements between the 7 of us. And behind closed doors, those disagreements are knockout, drag out, but they do exist. What we do is we spend a lot of time with each other outside of the board, so that I know when an issue is coming up, whether Chris Horn is going to have a different opinion than I am, whether Kat Sasser is going to have a vehement opposition to it. And that way I know when it's coming. So when we're meeting each other one-on-one, or in small groups of 3, I'm going to make sure I'm saying we're not trying to avoid a quorum, because that would be against the rules. But we're getting to know each other so that we can have those conversations behind closed doors. And then when we come out in public and we have that debate, it may still be a 4-3 vote. But the respect is shown in that instance because we've worked through those disagreements in the background. And so the public does not see those vehement arguments. They may see the 4-3 vote, they may see a 6-1 vote, but they understand that we have that level of respect for each other. I would hope that the respect that they see that we have there pushes itself out into the public. And for a lot of times it does. But there's always going to be, Carl, as you know, that one person that comes up to the podium who is just angry and wants to speak their mind. So we sit there silently and we listen. We'll let them speak. We don't interrupt. We just listen sometimes.
Okay, thank you. My clock says it's 1:06. We may have run out of time for questions in order to have time for the 5-minute wrap up. I'm sorry, there's people that do still have questions, and perhaps you can ask them afterwards. But right now, I want to give each candidate 5 minutes to wrap up and hit the highlights or whatever they want to do. And last time we started with Ms. Heath, so this time we are going to start with Mr. Seaman. You're on.
Well, thank you. And I want to say thank you again for inviting us. This has been a refreshingly different style of form compared to what we've had. So thank you for that. I'm going to keep this short so that I know Tanya wants to talk as well. I'm going to simply ask for your vote on April 5th. If you are interested in finding out about the candidates, about what we stand for, if you're interested in discovering whether or not we will actually follow through with the things that we've talked about, those 13 to 14 forums have been taped. You can find them online. You can find them on our websites. Mine is seamanformayor.com. You can find me on Facebook. I think I'm the only David Seamon in the Columbia area. And I appreciate your time.
Well, thank you. That was nice and short. All right, Ms. Heath.
Yes, so I would say that just like David, we have really enjoyed talking to you all. You've asked very, I think, wide-ranging questions that we appreciate and that are true for the responsibility of the mayor. And so we really appreciate your thoughts. And I know that if either one of us win, that we definitely will want to be in further touch with you and get your all's opinions, because there's a lot of wisdom on this Zoom meeting. My website, just so I don't forget, is heathformayor.com. I'm representing regular people, and my platform is common sense and collaboration. It's also new solutions. And as someone that grew up in the 80s, where it was just say no to drugs, and we've gone through all these cycles and stuff as far as trying to combat it. I think, one of the things that I would like to really implement is a stronger mentor program, so that if that kid is having a bad day and they have a friend that says, hey, here's a drug, it's going to make you feel better and stuff. You have another friend, you have another 5 friends that have been mentored and trained to say, hey, instead, let's go for a walk and talk about this. Hey, here's the name of a number of my counselor. Hey, here's, let's go do some art. Let's go ride a bike. Let's go do these other things, so that when they're growing up, it's not just say no to drugs, but it's here's 5 or 10 alternatives that are actually going to get you what you want as far as a solution to the challenge that you have in your life. Because we can have our police officers at full staff, but we can also decrease the number of drugs being used in our city, and that will decrease crime. And if we can figure out other ways, other creative solutions to handle our problems, like the physical therapy idea for the fire and the police and the garbage collectors and anyone else that has a physical job, that will help retain our employees. And also it'll provide that quality to the job, because money can't always be the answer as far as how we retain our employees. It has to be purpose. It has to be quality of the job, the fulfillment. There's all kinds of things that we need to bring to Columbia so that we can carry on and carry out your vision of respect and positive growth for Columbia. You all have done so much for us. We really appreciate it. And, I'm a Gen Xer, and David and I were talking the other day, he's probably millennial, and we just want to honor you because you all have set such a high standard as far as living in Columbia and the vision. And we recognize that it's, time to take up the torch and put the work in and build consensus and build that vision so that everybody can have a safe and wonderful life while they're living in our city. So thank you again. It's heathformayor.com.
Thank you. And with that, I'll just turn it back over to David Mallory.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it, Leslie. Thank you for moderating. And thank both of our candidates for being here. So big hand to y'all. It's really good to hear from both of you. I see it's got time to wrap up. Before we free up too much, I want to just remind everyone that next week, come on back, we'll be hearing about the ballot issues. Now, I think